Hello, everybody. If you ever wondered how you could use a Big Mac not only as a delicious sandwich, but to succeed in international business, then this is a presentation for you. I'm going to talk about Burgernomics, which is the Economist Big Mac Index. So today I'm going to first discuss the theory of the Big Mac Index, which includes the law of one price, purchasing power parity theory, and monetary policy. Then I'm going to go into the Big Mac Index itself and some limitations it has. And then finally close it up with how to sizzle, which are the key takeaways from this presentation. So the law of one price. According to our textbook, the law of one price states that in competitive markets free of transportation costs and barriers to trade, such as tariffs, identical products sold in different countries must sell for the same price when their price is expressed in the same currency. So we could use this just looking at the Big Mac itself, right? So the cost of a Big Mac in China is 21.7 yuan, and in the United States, it's $5.71. So the implied exchange rate in yuan to dollars is 3.8. So if the law of one price holds true, the actual exchange rate would equal that implied exchange rate, but that would obviously require truly efficient markets. However, the actual exchange rate is 7, suggesting that the yuan is 46% undervalued against US dollars. So then this goes into purchasing power parity theory. So the purchasing power parity theory exchange rate, which would be the implied exchange rate we just found, is a theoretical exchange rate that would exist if markets were efficient. So there were no transportation costs and no tariffs. The theory assumes away trade barriers, currency manipulation, price discrimination, and a few other things. It's viewed as accurate in the long run, like greater than 5 years, but it's not good for short-term currency movements. And it's based on comparing a basket of goods, which in this case, instead of using a basket, we just use the Big Mac. So how do countries manipulate their currency? Well, they do that through monetary policy. So expansionary policy can stimulate the economy, but also causes inflation and devalues currency in the country that has expansionary policy. And contractionary policy can control inflation, but it also can slow the economy and ultimately overvalue currency. I mean, this is theoretical, and that doesn't always happen, but these are the possibilities. So the Big Mac Index itself is a lighthearted version of purchasing power parity theory. It's based on the idea that the Big Mac can be a substitute for that, or a proxy for that basket of goods, because it's roughly the same recipe in roughly 120 countries. Obviously, it's limited to compare countries that have McDonald's restaurants. It has many limitations that I can't go into, but it's easy to understand. So this is just a graph of the Big Mac Index from January 2020. So this shows whether currencies are under or overvalued against the dollar, right? So obviously, most currencies are undervalued against the dollar according to the Big Mac Index. Only 2 in January were undervalued, and I believe in the July edition, only 3 were overvalued relative to the dollar. So there was some controversy around the Big Mac Index involving Argentina. So around 2011, Argentina had very fast-growing economic rates and allegedly very high inflation rates. So private economists said the official government inflation rates were nearly half what they should be. The government was understating their inflation significantly. The Economist published an article stating that the Big Mac Index indicated Argentina was in fact manipulating their inflation numbers. And shortly after the Economist article, though, Big Mac prices in Argentina were roughly 1/3 lower than comparable hamburgers at McDonald's, and a lot of the Big Mac advertising was removed. So people say that the regime in charge of Argentina actually ordered McDonald's to lower Big Mac prices to be able to manipulate the Big Mac Index. So this is just an example of the limitation of the Big Mac Index. And this graph here shows, so the 2011 data article would have been based on 2010 data. You can see there's this sharp spike back up here in the value of the Argentinian peso. Was that due to manipulation of the Big Mac Index or not? I don't know, it probably was, but so that's a limitation of it. But All right, so here's how to sizzle. Here's what to take away from this presentation, that in the long run, exchange rates affect how profitable the following can be: foreign investments, both capital and bonds, export opportunities, and price competitiveness of imports. So to maintain long-term profitability, businesses should monitor country's monetary policy and consider what purchasing power parity theory indicates. Now, the Big Mac Index is a way to monitor purchasing power parity theory, or just the purchasing power of different countries. And the Big Mac Index clearly has limitations, but the data is accessible and digestible. All right, that's the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.